Hey guys, so today I'm going to teach you how to take off your stock header and replace it with an aftermarket high-performance header on a Mitsubishi Eclipse GS from 1997. Okay, so basically what you're going to need is you're going to need a hydraulic jack so you can lift your car up and get underneath it, some jack stands to make it safe and all that. And then you're going to need the parts themselves, the headers, the gasket, brand new one, and the downpipe. Not only this, but you're going to need to drain the radiator. So you're going to need 1 gallon of distilled water and 1 gallon of this Prestone antifreeze coolant. And then you're also going to want some anti-seize lubricant, just so that your bolts do not get stuck in the engine block. And I always recommend this. It's a manual it basically tells you where all the parts are in your car and what to do in case this happens, so it always just helps to have this handy. So let's get started.
Alright, so he's going to start jacking it up. I know it's not that interesting, and probably everyone knows how to jack up a car. But in case you don't, make sure you don't put the jack on this part of the car. Make sure you go farther under on the frame.
There's always usually a manual, there's a jacking point on your car manual.
But most of the time it's going to be in the same spot right behind the wheel here. And if you can see, it's right on that solid metal chunk. So, make sure you do that. He's going to put that jack stand in there. He slid that under there. Now he's going to start positioning it. So, he's going to jack up the car a little bit more here. Then you got to slide your jack stand down there because obviously you can't keep the jack there. That would just be nonsense. Jack stand allows you to set your car down on that, take out the jack so you can move it on to a new place. And yes, if the narration of this seems stupid, there's a lot of people out there that probably don't know what that is, so that's why we're describing it anyway. Alright, he's got the jack stand in position. Now he's going to release
Very slowly.
the jack really slowly. You don't want to do it quick at all. And lower the jack down onto the stand. We can see what we're doing here. So we're going to take off the negative side of the battery. That's just a safety precaution, so if you're messing with any part of the engine, it's recommended, but especially if you're going to do anything with wiring, then definitely do it. That way you don't electrocute yourself. So that's the next step. Alright, so we got it off there. You have to get, you do not want to take a pair of pliers because that could strip it. You take a wrench and right on that nut right there, you just want to loosen it just enough, and then you can literally just pull it off and it'll come right off. And just so you don't accidentally touch it back on there, we just tucked it back behind in here, just so it doesn't spring back out. So that's what we're doing so far. Now we have this container, serves as an oil pan too, but you can use it for coolant. So we're going to collect the coolant in that, and that's what we're going to go from there.
Okay, basically what we're going to do now is we're going to take off the radiator cap so that we can let a little bit of that radiator fluid leak out. We're gonna take this off so we can have a free-flowing system through down to the bottom of the radiator, which is down here, and we're gonna let that fluid spill out because we're gonna eventually have to take off this radiator.
And make sure whatever you do, when you're doing this entire thing, do not have your engine warm. Preferably don't run your car for at least 3 hours. At least keep it cool. Like if it's just slightly warm, that's alright. But obviously, if it's hot, or if you've been using it, and you open that cap, it's going to shoot out of there extremely hot, burn everywhere, and it'll just spill all over your engine, and that's a huge mess to clean up. And also, so do not do that.
Also, when you're dealing with this fluid, you want to keep it away from little children or pets because they think it
or
tastes
flammable
sweet.
objects.
They think it tastes sweet, and it can cause death when you drink it. Okay, so now to release the coolant, there's a little valve down here. All you have to do is twist and try to make sure that this thing's aimed under, or else you'll have a huge mess. And you just kind of twist slowly.
And luckily with these things, I mean, it's got even a hose, little draining spout right there. So a lot of models don't have that on other types of cars, but these ones do. It's kind of nice. Now we get to sit and enjoy. Alright, so the next step is we're going to take out this air hose here so we have better access. So we're going to have him do that. Alright, so we took the hose out. You just undo the clamps, and it might seem a little tight, but you just kind of twist it off, yank on it. Make sure you get both sides, and then where is that connection? There's a thing right
onto the
right
intake
on here.
manifold.
And you got to make sure you get that off too. So after you do that, then we can go on to the next step.
Okay, so we're going to have to take off the radiator hose right now to make room for taking off the manifold. So I'm going to have my friend Ian take off that hose. All it requires is unscrewing a couple of these little clamps. So go for it. Okay, so now you can see the hose is now off of the sides, and we're going to go ahead and move on to the next step pretty soon here.
Alright, so this piece right here is called the wiring harness, and we need to remove that so we can get to all of this over here. So that's the next thing we're going to do here, and there's a little bolt back in there if you can see it. Right there. So you got to take that. Alright, so we're going to try to remove the heat shield here. We got this screw done, this one, but these bottom two are giving us trouble. We don't know what's the problem with this one here. It's not even stripped at all. This one might be a little stripped, but this will not budge. We tried a lot. We don't know if it's because it's actually bending into the metal work right here or not, so we're kind of working at it, but we're going to see if we can take the top off first and if it'll come out. So we're going to try that, and we're going to go from there.
Okay, so as you can see, I had to pull off the EGR tube. That's the exhaust gas recirculation tube. And that was just because I had to get some more clearance to take off the water pipe bracket. So also with a hammer and a strong person, we were able to get the heat shield off, and now you can see the manifold.
Alright, so this is the water hose right here, and we got to take that out because it's in the way of this also. So I'll move back a little bit so you can see what I'm talking about. This right here, that whole thing, we got to move it so we can pull this out. So that's what he's going to do here. So go at it. So I just took off these little clamps right here. These slide. You just clamp them together. If you get a pair of pliers and you get some leverage, you can just squeeze them over here, bring them over on this pipe here where it's loose. That way it's not on the rubber part anymore. That way now we're going to take off this little bolt right here.
Okay, so now that we have all the heat shield unscrewed, as you can see, the next step is to remove this engine hanger, because you can see this thing right here, it has one bolt that goes down into the manifold, and we want to get that off. So that's the next step. Pretty simple. All you need is a wrench. So now what we have to do is remove, you'll see these little screws that connect the manifold right there, and you have to the front exhaust pipe, and you have to remove those. There's two one on each side, or one right here, and one on that side, right back there. Okay, now that the engine hanger is gone, the next step is to unbolt the front exhaust pipe, which is, excuse me for this, it's way down here. That's where we want to unbolt it at. And then we'll want to remove that oxygen sensor right there so we don't break that off, because we're going to want that for the next part. So all of this really includes is unbolting that. What you're going to want to have is an extra gasket for that handy. It's just in that shape. It'll come with most exhaust parts, and that's basically it. Okay guys, as you can see, I have removed the exhaust pipe from the manifold. See that little gap? Then you can move on to the next step once you've got that done, which is removing the manifold itself. You'll see tons of little bolts, probably like 8 of them. They have to remove. Okay, so the manifold is off now.